Not only will this story send shivers down your spine, but it will truly highlight just how important the rights of the parents are in Islam. One time there was a man called Jurayj, and he was known to be an incredibly pious worshipper of Allah, and he used to pray day in, day out. And one night his mother called him, and she said, "Oh Jurayj," and Jurayj heard her and said to himself, "Oh Allah, you or my mother?" And he decided to continue his prayer, and by the time he finished, he forgot to go and check up on her and see what she wanted. The second night came along and the exact same thing happened. His mother called him and he said, "Oh Allah, you or my mother?" And he decided to stay in his prayer. The third night came along and the exact same thing happened, and his mother got so angry that she made dua from the depths of her heart, and she said, "Oh Allah, do not allow Jurayj to die until he faces the prostitutes." And subhanallah, not long after, a group of people from that village, they gathered and they were talking about Jurayj, and they were saying, "Look at him, he's so pious, he's so pious." And a prostitute was amongst them, and she said, "Do you want me to make him fall into haram?" And they said yes, and it was kind of like a bet between them. And she said okay, and she was known for her beauty, and so she went and she tried to tempt him and flirt with him and presented herself to him, but Jurayj didn't even look at her. And she got so angry that she went to a shepherd on the outskirts of the village and she presented herself to him, but because he did not have the same iman as Jurayj, he slept with her and they ended up having a child. And when she had that child, the people of the village, they said to the woman, "Whose baby is that?" And she said, "It belongs to Jurayj." And the village was so shocked that this man is pretending to be so pious, yet he's going out there sleeping with prostitutes. And they went to his sanctuary, they destroyed it and started beating him up, until when they were finished, he said to them, "What's the matter? What's wrong?" And they said, "You're a fornicator, you slept with that prostitute over there and you just had a kid with her." And so he said, "Bring me the baby." They bring him the baby and they put it next to him and he says, "Leave me to pray for a few minutes." And he prays, and when he finishes, everyone's looking along. He picks up the baby, puts it to his stomach, and he says, "Oh baby, who is your father?" And subhanallah, the baby spoke from his arms and said, "That is my father," pointing at the shepherd. And when the village witnessed that, they all gathered around Jurayj and started kissing his feet, and they offered to rebuild his sanctuary out of gold. And he said, "No, just rebuild it out of mud and that will be fine." And that, my brothers and my sisters, is the story of Jurayj. Now, what does this mean for me and you? Well, firstly, we should realize that Jurayj was an incredibly pious person, yet despite all that piety he gathered, it did not protect him from the punishment of Allah when it came to not fulfilling the rights of his parents. Allah says in the Quran, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّهُ. Allah has willed that you worship none other but Him, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and that you treat your parents with excellence. Allah put the worship of Him alone on the same level as fulfilling the rights of your parents. Can you see how deep this is? And so what about me and you who are nowhere near the level of Jurayj? And so that's why we need to strive to fulfill their rights and be the best to them, just as Allah has commanded us. And remember that the anger of Allah is found in the anger of the parents, and the pleasure of Allah is found in the pleasure of the parents.